So let's get started. I'm happy to introduce you to Patty Silverstein, well-versed on the local economy. Patty is Consulting Chief Economist for the Metro Denver Economic Development Corporation, author of the Chamber's monthly Economic Indicators Report, and also President of Development Research Partners. And you did a great job on the radio this morning, bright and early at 6:20. A real estate analysis and economic development research company is what Development Research Partners focuses on. We're always honored to have her here. Please welcome Patty Silverstein.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 2017. Yay! So I want to talk about maintaining equilibrium this year. 2016 was a fabulous year for many industries, and we really felt like we were hitting on all cylinders. And so as we move into 2017, the question becomes, how do we keep this momentum? How do we maintain some of this equilibrium? And I want to focus on two key aspects of maintaining this equilibrium. First of all, our consumer activity, and then I'll look at the business side. So with us consumers, and that's you and I, how we get out and spend our dollars, we represent about 70% of overall economic activity. How we spend those dollars is oh so critical to how our whole economy performs. And we as consumers, though, we have a lot to kind of balance. What are our earnings? What are our wealth situation? How do we choose to spend that money today, or how do we choose to save that money for future retirement years? So there's a lot of things to kind of keep in check. So in Metro Denver, we have 3.1 million consumers, 3.1 million people that are within our 7-county Metro Denver area. So I'm talking about that region that stretches from Adams and Boulder counties on the north on into Douglas County on the south. And we have this growing population, and our population is growing both from a natural increase side, which are the green bars at the bottom, which basically adds about 20,000 people each year to our Metro Denver area. And then we also have our net migration, the number of people moving into the region, less the number of people moving out. And that's always the wild card, kind of goes up and down according to economic conditions, averages right around 33,000 people a year. But let's dig into our population a little bit more. So this chart, this is a great chart. I love this chart. It looks at our population by single year of age, and it's all color-coded according to our generational groups. So we have that, the big purple bar is all of our baby boomers that are in the Metro Denver region, which had been the largest group, or had been the largest generational group, but is now a little bit smaller than where it had been. The green bars are our Gen Xers. Those Gen Xers are the largest component right now in our labor force. We have high labor force participation rates in that group. They're our key workforce that is out there. The red are the millennials. Those are that are 18 to 35 years old right now in the Metro Denver region, and they are our largest population group right now. And then you'll see the blue there, the centennials, or, we really don't have the set upon name for this group yet. The centennials, the Gen Z, the digital natives, a few different names have been tossed out for them right now. We don't know quite when that whole group ends yet. So even though the number looks a little larger there than millennials, chances are it's going to get shaved down a little bit. So the big question then, if I go back, notice, because this is going to become important, notice that big red bulge that is coming in, that right in behind the Gen Xers. That's going to be really critical when we talk about the demographic changes here in the Metro Denver region. So our consumers right now, again, we represent nearly 70% of economic activity, 68% to be exact. Can we keep up this pace? This is the big question. Can we continue to spend? And we've certainly seen a lot of increase in employment. We're finally seeing wages increase in the Metro Denver region. So there's a lot more spending power. Plus, a lot of folks are feeling a little bit wealthier. The stock market did pretty good in 2016. Our housing prices have been appreciating, so certainly that whole wealth effect is at play here as well. We're also starting to take down a little more debt. Now, we're not at debt levels that we had been prior to the Great Recession, but indeed that debt has been increasing a little bit. And when we kind of break down that debt, roughly 72% is related to our homes through mortgage or home equity, about 10% related to student loans, and then that leaves about 18% for all of that consumer spending activity. And indeed, that has been going up a bit. So we have been seeing those consumers again out in the marketplace. With all of that increased income and everything else too, though, we are seeing the savings rate that has been increasing a little bit as well. But keep in mind, so even though we're having this increase in spending power here, our millennials have still not reached their income potential. When you take a look at the earnings by age groups, you see, and this makes sense, that the Gen Xers and the Boomers tend to be the ones that are making the most money. You've been in your careers, you've been moving through those careers, advancing and all, and that income has been increasing. Notice too that heavy purple line, that's the over 65. Used to be that those that were over 65, that income kind of dropped down a bit as people retired. We are seeing that people are staying in the labor force longer, they're working longer, we're seeing that income increase more at that level. But notice our millennials, that red line, though they're the ones that are still kind of struggling. They are not yet at that income potential. And it's important then to think about how we are broken into these various generational groups, because spending differs very dramatically according to our age. So when we take a look at the top three categories of spending, housing, transportation, and food, you see that the millennials as well as the baby boomers spend about the same amount on those three categories, but it represents a greater percentage of the income that is being spent by the millennials because, again, their earnings are a little bit less. But notice the Gen Xers. Now, I know the Gen Xers have often gotten, kind of a bad rap out there. Everybody talks about millennials or talks about boomers, and we kind of forget them. Notice that in all those green bars, it is indeed the Gen Xers that are out there spending the most dollars and really driving a lot of the economic activity. Another big category to notice is the healthcare side. As you age, that is where more of your money tends to be going. So we have this strong concentration of the boomers aging through the years there. We expect to see more healthcare spending within the area as well. So we have this big bulge, though, of those millennials that are just coming in to those income potential years, those growing income years. We have more people that are moving into that 35 to 54 age group than are moving or aging out of the over 55 age group. So again, greater spending potential happening within our Metro Denver region. And with all of that said, then, we do expect the retail trade activity will indeed increase at a faster pace in 2017 than what we saw in 2016. Notice these numbers are indeed inflation adjusted, and inflation is taking a bigger bite out of our dollars here in the Metro Denver region now. We had about a 2.8% rate of inflation in Metro Denver in 2016. We do expect that that may increase closer to the 3% mark into 2017. So one of the biggest purchases then that our consumers make would be for a home. We have seen very hot housing activity throughout the Denver metro region, but we are starting to see some of those sales levels taper off just a little bit because there is very limited inventory out there. Remember, 3.1 million people, 1.2 million households, and we have roughly 5,000 homes on the market in the Denver metro region. Not a lot to choose from. So some of that lower activity expected in 2017 is really a result of that the lack of inventory that is out there. This lack of inventory is driving our home prices pretty high as well. In 2016, we saw in the Metro Denver region about an 8.3% increase in our home prices. In the Denver Metro region, we ranked as the 16th highest housing market in the country. But notice there, Boulder, our neighbor to the north there, 7th most expensive housing market in the country. And I'm talking about comparing it with areas along California, along Oregon, Washington, all of the East Coast areas, Florida. Boulder ranks as number 7 in terms of home prices. Now, we do expect that we will start to see a little bit of tapering off in those home prices, still maybe growing by about 5% in 2017. But, you know, the main reason then being that we are adding a little more inventory. Well, not only has ownership gotten a bit expensive here in the Metro Denver marketplace, but also our apartments are a little pricey. We did get some information that in the fourth quarter of 2016, we did see a little bit of easing off of those very high rental rates. We're still at about $13.50 for an average apartment, a typical apartment throughout the Denver metro region, but those prices only went up by about 4% our fourth quarter of 2016 compared to the prior year, whereas we had started 2016 at about 10% increases. We're also starting to see that vacancy rate creep up a little bit because we have certainly been bringing lots of new product onto the market. When we take a look at new construction activity, notice that multifamily is in the green. We do expect that in 2017 we'll start to see a little bit of tapering off of the new multifamily units. There are a lot that are still under construction that are coming onto the marketplace, again, providing some of that relief for some of the very high home prices and high apartment rates that we have seen in the area. All right. Let's turn now to our business activity. So even as our consumers had a bit to balance, oh my golly, think of all of our businesses are trying to balance to maintain their profitable positions. You have to think about what's going on with sales and material costs and wage levels and tax policies and regulatory reforms and interest rates and health care costs. Oh my. And taking all of that information and trying to make then your decisions about your staffing and your production levels and the like. So here in Colorado, we have been blessed with a very good year in 2016. We expect that Colorado will be in the top 10 in terms of employment growth rates across the country. But we still need to recognize that growth has been very disparate across the state of Colorado. We have areas such as Fort Collins, the Larimer County region that has been growing at a very strong clip, even stronger than our Metro Denver region, all the way through to our western slope of the state, Grand Junction, that is still struggling to really diversify their economy and to get on some type of stronger footing. But nonetheless, the good news in 2016 was that all areas of our state did indeed see some type of expansion in their employment base. Zeroing in on Metro Denver then, we increased by about a 2.9% rate in 2016, which basically means that we added about 45,000 net new positions throughout our 7-county Metro Denver area. We expect this will taper off a bit in 2017, but still adding close to 40,000 net new people. And the good news about this job growth is that when we take a look at it from the point of view of all the federally defined industries, every single industry expanded in the Metro Denver region. All of those super sectors that we look at expanded. And indeed, this was the 4th year that we saw growth in all of those super sectors, the 4th year in a row. So our growth has been very diverse, as I say, really hitting upon all industries and hitting at a growth rate that is right around our historic average. Those are all reasons why Forbes had ranked Denver as the #1 place for business and careers. You know, when we take a look at employment information, though, all of that employment data, that wage and salary data, doesn't even consider our sole proprietors. These are our entrepreneurs, our innovators that are located all across the state. In fact, we have 893,000 people in the state of Colorado that are classified as these sole proprietors. When you take those sole proprietors, add them to our total employment base, you discover that sole proprietors make up about 25% of our whole total employment in the state of Colorado. That ranks us as the 5th most concentrated state with proprietors in the country. And these folks are very prevalent all throughout the state of Colorado. In every industry, this entrepreneurship has just really taken off and provides so much fuel to our economic activity. From an economic development strategy, in our work with the Metro Denver Economic Development Corporation and the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce, we focus on key industry clusters. Our economic development strategy throughout the entire region is focused on this wide array of businesses and industries located in the Metro Denver area. There are these 9 key industries that we feel really drive the economic growth within the Metro Denver region. And as I like to do, here is the great bubble chart. But okay, take a look and then close your eyes, because all of the reports on all of our industry clusters are not being released until Thursday, okay? So forget you ever saw this until Thursday. But all right, as long, since it's up here, let me just highlight a few things about what is going on. So on this industry chart, then, all along the bottom axis is our growth rate. So we can identify what industries perhaps have shaved employment, and the only one that did shave a bit of employment this past year was our fossil fuel sector, which is not surprising given all of the decline in the price of oil, the challenges within that industry. Going through to now the fastest growing industry, software. Oh my golly, 9.5% increase in employment within the software industry in 2016. And this has been prevalent all throughout the Metro Denver region, a lot of them focused in the downtown Denver area, the Boulder corridor, and indeed everywhere in the Metro Denver area. Software just had a banner year this past year. So these technology workers that are coming here, a lot of those millennials that are coming here are certainly pushing that whole industry forward. The size of the bubble represents then the size of the employment base associated with that particular industry cluster. So you can see that our healthcare and wellness industry is indeed our largest industry cluster that we have in the Metro Denver area. And then going up and down on the chart, that's called our location quotient, which is basically a measure of the concentration of that industry here in Colorado. So notice that our aerospace industry at that 4.5 line means that our concentration of aerospace here is 4.5 times the national average. And certainly Colorado has the second largest aerospace economy in the country, so it's not surprising that we see that type of concentration. All right, I could talk for hours about all of what's going on within our industries here, but as I say, on Thursday, all of those reports, and they're typically 20-page reports or so that really track all of the activity within those industries. They will be released on Thursday and available on the Metro Denver EDC website at metrodenver.org. All right, last topic then, commercial real estate. So in general, we have seen our vacancy rates go down and our lease rates go up throughout most of our property types. On the industrial side, we did see a little bit of increase once again in the vacancy rate, but we have needed that. We have needed to see some alleviating of those pressures within that marketplace. 7.2 million square feet of space completed in the Metro Denver area in 2016, and we still have another 9.4 million square feet of space that is under construction. Our expectation is that the number of new projects that will be announced in 2017 is likely to slim down a little bit as we really wrap up a lot of the existing projects then. So maintaining our equilibrium. There are challenges out there to maintaining an equal footing here. We've got global uncertainty, rising interest rates, rising inflation, and Bert is going to be talking all about those things, I'm sure. And certainly trying to balance our infrastructure needs and our housing needs within the community remain some challenges, but great opportunities out there. We have these confident consumers and more money flowing into our consumers and changes going on in who is buying what and where and when. Strong job growth and a very active commercial real estate market. So with that, best wishes to you and have a terrific 2017. Thank you.